Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video I wanted to make an updated Paragon priority tier list because of course Supreme League is going on right now. A lot of people are focusing a bit more on PvP and we haven't done one of these in a while. So we've ordered it into 3 tiers of priority: the high tier, mid tier, and then also the low tier. But do keep in mind we're going to explain each hero when we come to it, and also depending on which heroes you have, certain ones could be a higher priority than, for example, an account that has all heroes. So we'll be discussing that. Now, number one, the high priority tier. These are going to be the most value heroes to be investing into. Generally, it's going to be damage dealer carries or heroes like Celeste, who is just not only contributing big damage, but also great support, great utility in PvP, and can fit into a wide range of comps and probably has very long-term value. This is an important thing you want to look at when you're Paragon upgrading a hero. How long do you think they're actually going to have before they get power crept? And so heroes which are very major utility for the team, like Celeste, like these big four Celestial Hypogean utility heroes, these have been rated highly because it's very likely that long term you're going to be able to use them in one of your teams. Okay, so we'll lead off with Frieren. Frieren is the best, in my opinion, damage dealer hyper carry in the game because not only does she have major kill potential with her ultimate damage, she also has vitality debuff with one of her skills, and she has high skill based damage, and then she also has defensive magic, which is like really good because it protects herself without needing to dedicate like an Ulna to her or gunner to her, and it also protects your frontmost ally who is going to become tankier than ever. And so Frieren just brings so much to the table. She is a major Paragon upgrade priority. And for dimensionals, because you can only Paragon upgrade them now by buying out from the season store, I've only put Frieren here. I've put Himmel down lower, but I haven't put Marcel for a couple of reasons. Number one, she's competing with Frieren for Paragon upgrades, which like it should all be going to Frieren rather than Marcel because of long-term value, and really it's the long-term value point that Marcel is just barely cutting it right now, and as soon as a better hyper carry comes out, Marcel is not going to be good enough to stand up, right? So that's why Frieren is good even to Paragon upgrade now. Marcel is not. I would not recommend you continue to Paragon upgrade Marcel like from the store or the season store, which is already an inefficient way to get it. Okay, next up we have Gwyneth. Gwyneth is still on rate up banner. She is the best main faction hyper carry we have ever had in AFK Journey. She doesn't depend on her ultimate, and she just comes out swinging, nuking enemies within seconds at the beginning of the battle. She is really effective, but you obviously need to protect her. She doesn't have the luxury of defensive magic like Frieren has, but she's more than worth protecting for those comms. Then we have Sylphira. Sylphira is going to be the best Celestial Hypogean hyper carry damage dealer. Again, Sylphira definitely desperately needs protection from like an Ulna, but if you can provide that, Sylphira can stand up and defeat almost any meta PvP team currently because she silences enemies. She can outstall even enemy Dunlingers with the Ulna protection, and she also has high just skill based, normal attack based damage. Now, we've put these high, yes, we've put these high, but it's because, like I said, that she brings damage to the table, number one. Number two, she buffs up your team, attack and HP buff, and then she also provides massive healing and shielding. This is so much utility for team comp, and it can work in a wide variety of teams. And when we look forward, like 1 year, 2 year, 3 years down the line, I can definitely still see a potential that Celeste will be used, and those are heroes which are going to be long-term good PvP investments. Hyper carries are much more at risk because if you guys have actually noticed here, there are plenty of hyper carries to go around. We're going to go through all of them in this entire list. But they're not enough supporters. They're not enough meta PvP supporters, utility heroes, protectors. And so these kind of fits in that role. And so that's why I put it as a high priority. Saida is still one of the top hyper carries and is a high priority for that because when she gets off 3 ultimates, it's an ultimate win condition for you. It probably will then give you the victory. Now, obviously, it is easier said than done for her to get off 3 ultimates. However, when you need to build 5 strong teams in Supreme League, probably for quite some time in the future, we're still going to be having to use or rely on Saida as one of our hyper carries. Because, like, even if we have Frieren, Gwyneth, Sylphira, Saida, that's basically it. Those are the top 4 hyper carries currently, in my opinion. And even if we get another one released, that would be the 5th one. It will only be until a 6th one comes out that maybe one of these heroes risks losing their spot. So, and then also, of course, side of AFK stages. Overall, side is actually just very strong. Okay, moving on to the mid tier. Now we have four heroes, which these heroes in themselves, their Paragon upgrade is not going to necessarily be the most game changing because they're not damage dealers. These are tanks or they are supports. And generally, you would prefer to have damage dealing heroes to have the Paragon upgrade. The reason we put them here is these are the four heroes, which if you had to bet, these are the four heroes which are still going to be around in the PvP meta 2 years down the line. I could easily make that bet. Now, of all the heroes in this list, these four heroes right here, Gunner, Contest, Alna, Dunlinger, these have the most likelihood that they're going to remain in the PvP meta for years to come because they are the ultimate tech utility options for your team with the protection, with the survivability, and with the silencing mechanic. This is amazing utility. And like, if for example, you could get 2 copies of All Night, 2 copies of Gunner. Imagine how much stronger your Supreme League teams, Supreme Arena teams could become. We're basically trying, even for a maxed out account that has everything built, like I'm struggling with it. I can barely make 3 solid teams. And to make 5 solid teams, we're just lacking way too many of these protectors and supporters, and they just not enough to go around in all the teams, right? You have to spread them out. So yeah, these 4, they're going to stand the test of time. You can mark my word about that. And that is why, even though they're not a damage dealer, which generally you want to Paragon upgrade damage dealers as a higher priority, because they have so much longevity and long-term value, you can Paragon upgrade them as a priority. Okay, now I have some other heroes here which are mainly going to be meta PvP damage dealers in PvP. All of them. We can talk about all of them together. Cryanaya, Tossie, Shamira, Siren. These are all ultimate base damage heroes. Perseus is normal attack and ultimate base. And then we have some, damage over time from Bonnie, Athalia, Lily May, Ravion. I call them damage over time because Athalia just keeps dealing damage over the fight. And these heroes, they have less nuking power. The Ravion, Lily May, Athalia, Bonnie. But they have more long-term value over the course of the fight or some utility like Lily May. The other ones, Cryanaya, Perseus, Siren, Tossie, Shamira, these are like burst nuking carries that just need to get off their ultimate, or even Perseus just needs some normal attacks, and that is going to win your team the fight, basically. Now, why are they in the mid tier, not the high tier? Because in my opinion, these are the tier 2 damage dealers, tier 2 hyper carries, and so the problem with being a tier 2 hyper carry is that there's no sense of using them if you have the tier 1 hyper carries. Now, as you guys are noticing, we only have 4 hyper carries in the high tier. So you can take your pick from one of the hyper carries in the mid tier, assuming you have these 4 built. But if you don't even have these 4 built, on the top, then you can Paragon upgrade and focus multiple ones of these. But I've ordered them in order. I think Cryanaya is probably the strongest of these mid-level of hyper carries. But I am really reluctant, honestly, about Cryanaya. I was even reluctant to include her in this tier list because I cannot safely recommend that you continue Paragon upgrading Cryanaya. Unless you have like all 4 of these guys, Paragon 4 and Sylphira as well. I can't really recommend you upgrade Cryanaya because Cryanaya already right now is on the verge of being kicked out of the meta. Because number 1, Contest just completely caused Cryanaya to make a fool of herself. Cryanaya will cast her ultimate, and then by the time she has energy for her second ultimate, she will be expelled, she will be silenced, she will not be able to cast an ultimate again. So, and that is a real problem because Cryanaya needs at least 2 cycles of her ultimate to actually kill a good team. Killing 3 enemies each time. Now, that being said, of course, if the enemy is not running Contest, if the enemy has heroes which are susceptible to Cryanaya's nuke, even like, Saida, who's a top hero, then there's potential. But then the problem comes, she sometimes lacks the damage to even kill anyone within her frozen domain. If the enemy has any form of true damage, they're going to kill Cryanaya rather than the reverse in her frozen domain. She'll actually lock herself in with with heroes who are about to beat her up if they have any true damage because it bypasses the shield. And so there's a real problem about Cryanaya. I cannot safely recommend you Paragon upgrade her, but if you already have her upgraded, I can definitely see using her. If you're limited on options, I can definitely see using her, but I do not think she's the top tier. And same with Perseus and these other heroes here, Perseus, Tossie, Shamira. We can talk about all of them. Perseus's problem is melee. Melee heroes just have a massive disadvantage in this game. I know Saida is a melee, but at least she can jump around, has initial starting energy to kind of combat that. But melee heroes just really are countered by range. Even if you're not running a Kulu or anything, they just, because, for example, like if you have a Perseus team and you have a Marcel, let's say Marcel nuking team, which is kind of like, I both consider both of them mid-tier level of hypercarries. Which is actually going to win? Well, if the Marcel ultimate's fast enough, you have her like a Theodore boosting, Leica boosting, 1-2 seconds into the match, Marcella's gonna cast her ultimate, and all it takes is a couple of blows of her ultimate, and she will wipe out the Perseus team. If the Perseus comes with an Ulna, then potentially there, but Ulna can also come with the range hypercarry. And so this is the thing about Perseus, he's fine. If you have no better option, I can definitely see using him. But again, I do not consider him a top tier DPS. You can Paragon upgrade him on your wish list, but don't make it a major priority. We have Siren, Ravion, Lily May. All of these heroes kind of I classify into the tech or utility type role of your team. Ravion is really good. I'm a real fan of Ravion because I think he's another hero, kind of like Sleaze, that can fit in a multitude of teams. And probably for some time to come in the future, you will want to have a hero like Ravion. He has some survivability for your allies, that unaffected buff and attack buff, and then he has some of his own damage as well. Definitely, there's quite a lot of things going on with Ravion. Lily May, the thing is, she kind of is similar to Ravion in that she has utility with her ultimate block, and she has some damage, but the thing is, she's not a dedicated hyper carrier, but and also sometimes it's awkward to fit her into various different team comps. It doesn't always fit exactly, or it doesn't actually, Lily May is kind of like a standalone hero, which does her thing, kind of independent to the rest of your team. Like you can slot Lily May into most teams, but it's not necessarily amplifying the effectiveness of your team. Unlike like for example, let's just explain. Like let's say you have a Perseus. Right? How a Perseus comp. How do you amplify the effectiveness of Perseus? You give him temporary buffers. If you run a Lily May in the comp, she's not doing anything for the Perseus comp. She's just also going to be benefiting from those temporary buffs. So there's some synergy there for Lily May Perseus comps. But if, like, for example, you have a Pandora Shamir comp or a Pandora Cryonite comp, what value is Lily May bringing to the table in that comp? I mean, she's bringing some value, but it's not like she's actually doing anything to help that comp. She's just potentially trying to do something to disrupt the enemy. And so this is kind of the thing. It's kind of like sometimes it's awkward fitting Lily May into comps, but still they're Paragon upgrade priorities. Mid tier is still Paragon upgrade priorities. These three heroes, Siren, Ravion, Lily May, they fit into a multitude of teams, which means that you can Paragon upgrade all of them. Athalia I put quite low. The reason for that is she just doesn't have the nuking power to deal with teams anymore. Like, if the enemy has a Saida team, yeah, good luck. Athalia is not going to be the nuking needed to kill that team. If the enemy has Ulna protecting Sylphira, Ulna teams, no, Athalia cannot penetrate because of that invincibility. If the enemy has Gunner on their hypercare, like Gunner Gwyneth, Athalia can't do anything. Athalia's going to keep locking on and damaging the Gwyneth, who's the hardest hitting damage dealer, but she's completely invincible because of Gunner's effect. And if the enemy has Contest in a Stroll team, Contest is going to eventually silence your Athalia, and Athalia is just going to be literally doing nothing. Like just a walking stick walking around. So that is the thing about Athalia, and that is why I cannot recommend that you Paragon upgrade her right now, but if you already have her built, you can try to make use of her. Bonnie is still needed for some damage over time teams if you're limited on options for PvP, and she's still good for that. Now again, I would consider a tier 2 comp. The tier 1 comps, in my opinion, are not including Bonnie damage over time strats, because it's too slow. It is, you're just going to get blown out by the hard-hitting, more powerful hypercarry who have a much stronger win condition than Bonnie just whittling them down. Shamir, Tassi, they're ultimate based nukers. They're a bit of a relic of the past. They used to be good. People, some have them Paragon upgraded. Now, I wouldn't really make these big priorities for you to Paragon upgrade them. However, if you're like that low spender or long-term player and you have them at Paragon 2 and you have no other heroes, PvP heroes built up, yes, you can definitely build teams around them. You can continue to Paragon upgrade them just to get them to their maximum value. But like if you're starting as a new player from scratch right now, these are not the heroes you would like to be fully investing into for PvP. Okay guys, so now we have the low tier. We'll go a bit quicker through this. So there's some heroes here you might think are very questionable. Why have I put some strong PvP tech heroes, utility heroes, like Kulu, Alicet, Mihira? Even some of them deal damage, like Kulu deals decent damage, Alicet deals damage. The thing is, right, it all depends on your account. For example, when you look at this Paragon priority, you don't want to upgrade every single thing in the mid tier, right? Like, you want to upgrade enough to make your teams work. I'm just giving you a wide variety of options to pick from. For example, if you do not have these Celestial Hypogean heroes or these high priority heroes, then you're going to have to build a team around some of these other regular faction heroes. That's why they're included here. However, if you're a whale and you're just going all in on the Celestial Hypogeans, you can skip some of these regular faction heroes. No whale needs a Tassi. No whale really needs a Bonnie, honestly, even, because you're not going to even be using Bonnie in your set of 5 teams. assuming you are a high spending whale who's building all celestial hypergenes and everything. The whale doesn't really need Chimera. And Perseus is debatable, Krynai is debatable, but like basically this is what I'm saying. And then you can prioritize these higher and get them higher priority. But I'm talking like for a normal player who's like building these heroes of Supreme Plus, Kulu for AFK stages, Mahir for AFK stages, Ravram, Alistair for Dream Realm. These heroes function totally fine as Supreme Plus because they're actually providing the utility for your team. They're not the dedicated carry. Like if, for example, you have a Paragon 4 Grinnet and a Supreme Plus Alistair, and a Supreme Plus Kulu even on the team, it's still going to be really scary to deal with that. Now, is it worth it for you to get these Alistair and Kulu up to Paragon 2, Paragon 4? I don't think so, because the thing is, these heroes, your Paragon can be used differently. It can be allocated more effectively, giving it to like a Sylphira, giving it to a hero which is probably going to remain in the meta for the next 2 years to come or more, like the Gunner, like these other heroes here. You're going to get more long-term value from that. It's a safer investment. If you invest into Paragon upgrades of these 3 heroes, totally fine for whales and krakens, but for other people it is not recommended, because these heroes, you know, when another meta celestial hypergene comes out, they're at more risk of being replaced from your team comp. Now I know they do unique things, and right now they are kind of core parts of our top tier PvP teams, but like they are not as core as these 4 that we have in the mid tier, right? And Krynai is just a hyper carry. These are the hyper carries, right? And hyper carries deserve your Paragon more than your supports of the team. Okay, so that's what we cover about those. We have Himmel. Himmel we have put here because of his support for Freerin. Now, you don't need to upgrade their Paragon upgrade of Himmel. He's totally also fine as Supreme Plus, and you can even use him in PvP with Freerin. If you want to min-max your team, you can Paragon upgrade him. However, I would really probably avoid doing that because it's really inefficient buying it from the season store with, like, you have to spend the amount of diamonds it would take to go to full max pity, and you don't get any extra copies of A levels along the way. So it is not the most efficient thing to do, and that is why from right now I would say if you want, you can pick up the soul stones in the season store for Freerin and upgrade all the way to Paragon 4. I don't think that's bad, but Himmel I would not say. I would say unless you're a super whale, and that's why I put them low. These heroes here, even the twins, these are all heroes which can be very good for a Paragon upgraded, but they're very expensive and their cost doesn't outweigh their return, their value, and that is why I put them in this low tier basically. But if you're a whale, of course, value is, this whole scale is different. The whole like metric of how you you determine value is different, and then these heroes can become a higher priority. Okay, so next up we have some tanks here. Callan, Damon, Theodore, all meta PvP tanks, all good, and they're low Paragon priority because they're not damage dealers. However, definitely they're core parts of your team. You're probably going to use them for a long time, and they should be Paragon upgraded. You should be prioritizing them for Paragon upgrade on your account. Definitely. Hugin, Ludovic, we have some supports here. Hugin, Ludovic, Rowan, Pandora, Nero, Eevee, Faye. All of these were basically, I collected all what I consider the most PvP meta supports, which you see used frequently in teams. And so I would say, yes, you can try to Paragon upgrade all of these heroes, depending on which ones you're using. Of course, for example, if you're not even thinking about using Faye, you don't need to bother getting Faye's Paragon upgrade. The reason I put Faye here is basically every season, she has a charm quality bonus to boost melee damage of the ally in front of her, and like for any melee hyper carry, that's pretty good value. And then on top of that, she has like vitality buff and attack buff from beginning of fight and other things which are useful. But basically that is why I put Faye in here as well. But the other heroes, they're pretty much self-explanatory. You guys have seen these heroes quite a lot in PvP, and you know that they're worth it. Eevee, also a newer hero, but she is having some value magic, defense shred, buffing your allies. So definitely I think Eevee is a good solid choice as well. But Paragon. Okay, we have some Grave 1 heroes here who are a bit of the stallers, Zoria, Igor. These are heroes which function just fine at Supreme Plus for your teams, and that is why you don't need to Paragon upgrade them. Like, it's much more important if you're running the Bonnie damage over time team with Igor or Zoria. Much more important to get Bonnie Paragon upgraded before Zoria and Igor. But if you can get them Paragon upgraded, great, you can use them. And people are wondering which is a better choice between Igor and Zoria. Honestly, it depends on who you're facing. If the enemy has a Siren, I obviously like Zoria because Siren hard counters Igor. If the enemy has nothing to really deal with the Igor that effectively, I like Igor more because Igor is actually contributing damage. He's contributing recovery block with his plus 10 exclusive equipment. And so, yeah, I think Igor Zoria, yeah, they can work at low. We have some other supports here that I consider like, they're not supports. There's a warrior, a mage, and a marksman. But basically, they fill the role of a support. Zandrok is a buffer, temporary buffer. Like is a temporary buffer. Citron is a spark applier. These heroes are good in PvP. Definitely, when you are able to, you should try to Paragon upgrade them. But they're not like a major priority. Like, for example, if you have a Paragon 4 Perseus and Supreme plus Zandrok, you're going to do just fine. If you have a Paragon 4 Zandrok and a Supreme plus Perseus, you're going to get wrecked. So that's why basically trying to understand the positioning of the heroes here. Both are good in PvP, but the Paragon upgrades onto them are not equal. Like, for example, the Perseus Paragon upgrade is going to carry you much harder than the Zandrok Paragon upgrade. And that's why they're in the different tiers. Same with Citrana, same with Leica. But Leica also solid hero, temporary buffer, energy booster. Leica honestly is a hero which I think is going to have some decent longevity as well in some of these temporary buffing nuking comps. Fast ultimating comps. Okay, now we have just some various heroes, some tanks, Hepler and Gerda, and then we have Talia. You guys have probably seen Hepler in some of my team formations, especially giving an additional life to Sylphira, and I like Hepler, but Hepler works as Supreme Plus. He does his job perfectly at Supreme Plus. You don't need to invest higher into him unless you have, higher spending. But obviously, you can keep these heroes on your wish list. Like, if the slots are available, definitely keep them on. But basically, these are not going to be like the game as game changing as the heroes in the mid and the high tier. Paragon. Gerda, solid hero. She has healing, and that healing is permanent onto the map, which is useful even if she dies. She has some crowd control as well. Overall, just solid hero. Nothing really more to say about it than that, and she is used on some comps in PvP, but again, I'm not sure how much longevity she'll have. And Talia, you might be very confused to see Talia, but actually there are some interesting strategies involving Talia. Number one, if the enemy doesn't have true damage, which is asking for too much, in Supreme League you cannot expect that, right? But if the enemy doesn't have true damage, Talia can be one of the best tanks you've ever seen, because they're not going to be penetrating that shield. But if they have true damage, they cut through Talia like butter, and she disappears in seconds. But one interesting strategy actually people are doing, even high level, is Dunlinger Talia team. The reason why this is very interesting is a lot of true damage actually comes from ultimates. Like whether it be Frieren, whether it be even Schmier has ultimate true damage. Perseus has normal attack true damage as well. He is one of the exceptions to this whole rule. But basically, heroes do lack true damage sometimes on their normal attacks and their skills. And so Dunlinger can be a good ally along with Talia and basically keep her protected. But yeah, I still think it's way too risky to run Talia in Supreme League, definitely. I don't necessarily think it's worth it. However, definitely, if the enemy doesn't have true damage, she can really win your team the match. So that's why she's a final hero here, not a major priority for Paragon upgrades. So anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this video. Hopefully it's helpful. Any hero I didn't include here, I believe is not worth it enough to be prioritizing Paragon upgrades on. Of course, it will be a case-to-case basis. If you're lacking a lot of heroes from this list here, then you can prioritize other heroes as well. But like, in my opinion, just to consolidate it into the most impactful heroes in their categories, that's what I tried to do with this tier list. Let me know if there are anything you disagree with or any other positions you think should be different. That's always interesting to hear about. And of course, this is my current opinion in the current state. Things could change next month, the month after that. Also, of course, with more Supreme League group rounds, the stages we have, we're going to see more clearly what are actually the top performing teams and then definitely the top performing heroes. And so there could be some minor changes to a tier list like this in the future. But overall, I feel currently looking at it, I feel happy with the positioning, and hopefully you guys understood the explanation as well. So thank you guys for watching. That's gonna be it for this one. And if you're thinking about making a purchase in AFK Journey, please use my affiliate link for the official Farlight store. This is the best way you can support me and also gain 5% bonus dragon crystals on your purchase. My affiliate link is in the description of this video and a pinned comment, and you can actually bookmark this link in your browser, and whenever you're planning to make a purchase, just return to the bookmark link and make your purchase. It will support me and be greatly appreciated. So thanks for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next video, and until then, everyone, peace out for now.